Explore the far reaches of the universe with the Starship Enterprise and Wendy's. Because right now, with the purchase of a Wendy's Fun Pack meal, you'll receive a free Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan movie poster. Imagine it. You get just the right size Wendy's hamburger, French fries, and soft drink or Frosty, plus this exciting color wall poster free. So beam yourself to Wendy's for a Fun Pack meal that's truly out of this world. But be careful. The Wrath of Khan awaits you.
Warp speed and start collecting Star Trek 3 glasses. Beam home Spock. Klingon treachery. The secret of Valtrapan. And fate of the Enterprise. Star Trek 3 glasses. Only at Taco Bell. It's just made for you. Hurry and buy this week's glass. Spock lives for just 69 cents with the purchase of a large or medium soft drink at regular price.
Hey. How you doing?
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, from the capital city of the United States of America, Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
It's Talk Hard Tuesday. There we go. Seems like a fitting opening this week. Hopefully everybody's out there doing well. What a great panel. Talking Trek of all things. I know, me. Talking more Trek. So, yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Thanks for everybody joining us and hanging out with us tonight. Loki, my friend, here we are, man. How's things?
Here we are. Good. I ran into a couple of our friends last night at Grimaldi's Pizzeria in the Woodlands. So I got to hang out with Brandon, the anime guy, 24/7 Fusion. We had a good time.
That's awesome. That's the best, man. Hanging out with people in real life too, man. That's great. That's awesome. That's awesome. IRONCASTER brother, how's it going, man?
I mean, it's going. I mean, I'm here to live long and talk hard.
That's it. I like that. That should be a shirt. There we go. We need some new Spock fingers that says "Live long and talk hard." That's awesome. That's a good shirt idea there. And with us is our special guest, a total Trekkie himself, NERDPOREAL life form, my friend, brother. Thank you so much for doing this and hanging out with us.
Well, thank you for having me. These three movies, well, especially the first two, Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, are the reason why I'm a nerd. So yeah, I mean, got me into the entire franchise. These movies. So can't wait to talk.
We're gonna get him in. We're gonna figure this out. He's gonna message me some availability. We need to record something for Star Wars Day because his gateway to Trek is actually Star Wars. To make it even more complicated and interesting is to have the gateway go from Star Wars to Trek to nerddom. So yeah, good stuff. Great stuff. Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I can't wait for this. It's been fun to revisit these movies and hang out. And this awesome chat led off by our special guest himself, NERDPOREAL himself, saying Trekkers and Trekkies. There you go. The Writer brothers are here. Hey, awesome. There he is from the Great White North, the mod himself. Hail to the triumvirate of Talking Hard. Hail to you, Chris Persia. Thanks for all you do, my friend.
You know,
go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
I was just having a thought over the course of those commercials from the Taco Bell and the Wendy's. Like, you know, it's such a shame they didn't do the glass tie-in at Taco Bell for the Wrath of Khan, because when you think Taco Bell, you think of other kind of wrath.
It is definitely a wrath, indeed. It is.
Beans.
The Wrath of Montezuma.
It tasks me.
I'm surprised you didn't use that from last year.
I did not have it handy. I got caught up with doing Dagger of the Mind and did not do, but during our course of conversation, I will probably re-upload it and see if I can get it to fit in real quick. Because I have it. I just don't have it plugged into the computer.
Buried alive. Loki.
We will try to see if we can track that down. In the meantime, the lovely lady Penny is here. Penny doing great, and she's dropping those emojis. Members, make sure you drop those emojis. Hang out with us and do that. It's always fun. Early access to videos and some emojis is part of the fun. Hanging out with Whole Pops. Appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much. Jacob Ironside's here. Great to see you, my friend. Oh yeah, the Trek Trilogy. Cool. All right, rock on. Everybody saying hello, everyone, and the Princess Leia Rose. That's right. How you doing, lady? Hope you're doing well. Great to see you. Thanks for coming by. Yeah. Frosty's chicken nuggets. Oh yeah, people do that. Yes, indeed, they do. Yes, yes.
I never did.
No, never done that. They're dipping in ice cream. The kids do. The kids will dip fries. Kids will
Yep.
dip,
Yep.
fries
Fries.
and chicken nuggets, and yeah.
I can't do that anymore.
No, I know we shouldn't be having Frosties probably. So, all right, Slasher Fred's here hanging out. Great to see you, my friend. Says, I think that what makes the original Star Trek movie so iconic is that when the motion picture came out, it felt like a sequel and a reboot of the series. Yeah, that's cool. It's a fair assessment. I think it definitely, living through it took fans from like my mom. I grew up with it because of my mom, but it took her love of it and kind of fed it to us, and it made it different because it made it to the big screen, which it shouldn't matter if it's a TV series versus movie, but for kids in the 80s, it being on that motion picture was kind of a big deal, even more so than it being a good movie or not. Once Wrath of Khan happened, it was like part of our life. I mean, that was how it was. Wrath of Khan was just a game changer. So,
What NERDPOREAL said earlier, I've told this story before. First two movies I ever remember seeing in theater was Return of the Jedi and Search for Spock.
Yeah,
those were the very first two movies I ever remember seeing in theater. Yeah, Star Wars, Star Trek. I grew up watching Star Trek with my dad, and he loved Star Wars just as much. There was no get that Star Trek out of here, boy, or get that Star Wars out of here. It was all of it. Dune, Star Trek, Star Wars, Forbidden Planet, anything you could get your hands on that was good sci-fi, we got it.
Yeah, my dad kind of encouraged it, even though he grew up with Star Trek. He was a kid in the 60s. So, and I think he said he saw the movies. I don't know if he saw them when they came out, but like Pop said, I started watching the original Star Wars trilogy just as an adolescent, as an 11-year-old, that just interested me. And it was the last version before George Lucas decided to F shit up or excuse my language, F stuff up and change it for, a modern audience back then. So I got to see the original versions of the movies,
Were they the THX versions, or were they like the OG before anything? Because
it had the THX, it had the THX logo in the beginning, like that.
That's the THX. So yeah,
that was the anniversary re-release, and they came out with those black VHSs, and it was a short-lived thing before he got his hands on the special edition. And And I'm a mixed fan. We should probably do a video on the special editions, because there are sequences I think are okay, and I'm not totally opposed to. And then there are other ones I'm like, I can't stand this scene. And obviously the Han shot first thing is obviously a huge one, but more than that, just some of it just did not age well, mess things up.
That survived. Okay, so the Han shot first, that survived in the THX version. All they did was go in, clean up the video, clean up the audio, and they digitally captured everything.
Yeah, they cleaned it all up. Yeah,
because the film was degrading. It was like, okay, we can do this now, or we're not going to have the opportunity later. Then after they did that, and he was like, you know what? Let's go back and change some things.
He made too much money. He made too much money to become a center of attention in it fed his ego, and this is the problem with George. He just, he's one of those. So
yeah.
Pacific 414 is here. Great to see you, brother. And he'll be on my topic of conversation for What's Your Story this week. So you don't want to miss that. He was with us for an absolutely amazing, great night, hanging out, talking Transformers. Great channel, cross 1,000 subs, just doing rocking and rolling and, kick butt, taking names, as Loki says. So look at that. Loki's Zardoz lives on. Yes, indeed. Lots of love for the characters. Totally get it. And there's some love for Meloncaster. You gotta love Meloncaster. He's one of the newest emojis for sure.
Yeah, these movies. I mean, after seeing Star Wars, I think I was in the 5th grade or something. We went to the mall. I went to the mall with my parents. There was Suncoast Videos. There was FYIs. Suncoast Video had an entire section dedicated to Star Trek. It had the original series on VHS. It had the movies. It had some of the seasons of The Next Generation. This was 1996. This is early 1996. And I think it maybe had the first season of Deep Space Nine at the time. So I think we were at an FYI, and I was just looking at the videos, and I looked at the Star Trek movies, and I was like, okay, I know Star Trek existed. I mean, I remember watching 5, even though I didn't know it was 5, but I remember watching 5 with my dad. It was on HBO, early 90s. And I actually, as a little kid, I got a big kick out of it. It was a little fun little movie, you know, guy with pointed ears and his 2 companions. At least that's what I thought, but he kept calling the other guy Captain for some reason. But I saw that, and I was like, this is Star Trek. I thought the other show, the TNG, you know, Next Generation, I thought that was Star Trek. So I was confused at first. So I always knew about Star Trek. I wasn't into it as a little kid because, you know, live action's boring. You know, I was a cartoon and video game. I was a Nintendo nerd. So I see the movies, and the thing that sticks out to me, I looked at the Wrath of Khan, like, okay, this looks pretty cool. But then I look at the box for Search for Spock. And I was like, okay, I remember this character. I remember the character with pointed ears. Why does he look like that? I look at the back of the box and I find out the character died. The character died in the last movie, and that blew my mind as a kid. I was like, can a good guy die? And that's how my interest got. That's how I initially got interested in Star Trek, believe it or not, was because of the idea that a character, they took a risk and they killed a beloved character off. And then I watched.
It's funny you bring that up because, you know, we were just talking about it on Transformers, right? And IRONCASTER had this great traumatic revelation to me that they not only, you know, they kill off Optimus Prime Boss, but they made him into like a nighttime night death light or something. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm traumatized just thinking about this freaking thing. And I'm like, yeah, I did a little short on it because I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's like, oh my God, I can't even imagine how traumatized I would have been. I was so emotionally distraught over the Transformers thing. So I can't imagine NERDPOREAL. You see a box and you find out like passively Spock's dead, but here's another movie about him, and you're like, what in the name is happening? I got to watch this, right?
Yeah. So Wrath of Khan Wrath of Khan's it's a more complex film in terms of story and what's going on and the stakes and all that. It's a very nuanced, very perfect. It's a perfect film in my opinion. But the movie that actually got me interested, that actually got me emotionally, was Star Trek 3, Search for Spock. Now, I was a kid that, it was a rough, I didn't have friends around that time. I was, 5th grade, 6th grade was a difficult year. Folks were going through financial hard times. I was being made fun of in school. Nobody wanted to do stuff with me, and humiliation after humiliation. And then I see this movie, Star Trek 3. Now, you know what happened in Star Trek 2, and I know the character Spock, passes away. Star Trek 3, they go after their friend. They risk everything to go after their friend. Kirk risks everything to get him back and to make sure that he's at peace and all that. And the fact that the crew stuck with him was something that really spoke to me. It made me think that, it's possible. It is possible to make friends, and it gave me a little bit of hope, and it gave me quite a bit of investment.
That's one of the most beautiful lines in 3 is when Sarek tells him, "But at what cost? Your ship, your son. What? And if I hadn't, the cost would have been my soul."
Yes,
it's a perfect scene.
It's so funny that, and I've listened to other channels say how much they didn't like the film and that they preferred, believe it or not, Star Trek Beyond to it. I'm like, are you nuts? I'm like, are you crazy? Beyond was okay, I guess, but it's not very memorable. It didn't have the weight that Star Trek 3 did. Even Star Trek 3 is not a perfect film, but neither was 2 either. Well,
let's keep getting through. Let me get through some chat some more first. And Mark's got the quote. There we go. He tasks me. I shall have him. I'll chase him around the moons of Nibia, round the Antares maelstrom, and round the perdition's flames before I give him up. Great job, Mark. Great job indeed.
I can memorize Khan quotes all day.
Yeah, I think that Wrath of Khan is both a sequel to the motion picture and the original Space Heat. Indeed, it is.
I consider the motion picture, and I made a video about this. I consider the motion picture like its own little thing. Now, it was originally supposed to be a series. I'm sure you guys all know this. It was originally supposed to be called Phase 2, and it was supposed to be. And what's funny is Next Generation used Phase 2 and the motion picture as a template for itself. Ilea and Decker, Riker and Troy. They even adapted a couple of the episodes that was written for Phase 2, like Devil's Due and The Child, if you remember those episodes. The motion picture was originally supposed to be a pilot. for a series. But they decided, because of the success of a movie about space wizards and laser swords, they went the movie direction.
Time's right. Time's right to go for it. Yeah.
So
way behind on chat. So let me just catch up a little bit. Jacob saying, I haven't always will be your friend. Great quote.
Beautiful.
Chris is how far behind we are. Chris is saying no on the dipping the fries into the Frosty.
Yeah.
Eat the chicken nuggets though. They're battling over the nuggets. No dipping. All right. So TMP and Undiscovered Country in the theater. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I saw Undiscovered Country as well. I saw most of these in the theater.
I consider Undiscovered Country the fourth film in this continuity, because 5 didn't really address anything that happened in 2, 3, and 4, but 6 did. With the whole him addressing David, and they were originally going to make Valeris Savick.
Savick, she was supposed to come back, yeah. After having Spock's baby that nobody knew about.
All right, Slasher Fred says one of those 1950s movies seemed to inspire Trek, The Fly and Forbidden Planet. Okay, transporter and sound effects. Okay.
Yeah, I saw Forbidden Planet years after the fact. I think I saw in 2019, 2020, when a certain author who will never finish his fantasy book series said this was his favorite sci-fi movie of all time. I watched it. I was like, dude, this is practically Trek. And there were some Star Wars elements to it too, like some of the shots, like the blue hologram and like the overshot of the Death Star looked like, the Krell's underground air and all that. So yeah, the whole the beaming, like the beginning of the movie, I see them going onto the platforms while they're supposed to decelerate, and they're supposed to go into this
it's like instead of having the
like they're suspended.
They're suspended so that when they decelerate, they don't
on the
windshield.
Exactly. So, and I see this, I'm like, dude, that's what they borrowed like ideas. They borrowed design ideas from
Gene admitted that Leslie Nielsen's character, the captain in Forbidden Planet, is his prototype for Kirk. So Gene admitted that.
Yeah, there was a first officer and there was a doctor. Unfortunately, the first officer and the doctor they get killed in the movie. But that was I saw this. I mean, I saw there were bits of Halloween. John Carpenter took some. I first heard of Forbidden Planet. It was featured in Halloween, 1978. So
yep. This is a great question. Deep Space Nine. Is there any reason why it didn't get a movie?
Because Nemesis didn't do well. Enterprise was in its last seasons, and Deep Space Nine had a definitive conclusion. Now they could have. I mean, I heard in the grapevine. Maybe you guys know this too. Apparently, they were going to do a crossover movie featuring people from TNG crew, the DS9 crew, and maybe the Voyager crew. But that didn't pan out or something.
No, Paramount didn't want to do it. The closest they got was having Worf back on the ship and getting Janeway and Nemesis. That was as close as they could get. There was supposed to be this huge battle, okay, at the beginning of First Contact that was going on in the Klingon Empire with the Borg. That was going on because if you get the original script, you can check this out. So they're fighting the Borg in the Klingon Empire. They're fighting the Borg in the Romulan Empire, and they're fighting the Borg in the Federation. So all these battles are going on all at the same time. One of the biggest Borg cube is the one with the Queen on it that has the Borg sphere. It leaves Klingon space and hauls ass to Earth. The Defiant follows it because Worf took the Defiant to help Martok defend the Empire. So Worf hauls back with the Defiant, and that's why the Defiant's at Earth defending Earth against the Borg. So and Paramount was like, no, we're not going to do that. We don't really think we need to do that. Why don't you just have one cube at Earth and that'll be good enough? And you're like, man, people would have lost their minds if you would have seen all this going on around the galaxy all at once. Klingons are fighting, Federation's fighting, Romulans fighting, and then it all has this big battle at Earth that culminates with the cube doing what it does. It would have been magic. And they said, no, we'll do the movie, but cut all the cool stuff out.
I did not know that.
That's Paramount. That's the minds of Paramount.
Hollywood histories. Yeah. They're just
they didn't want to spend the money, I guess.
They didn't want to spend the money and they didn't want to do it. And it's just sad.
Oh,
So
back in the
sad.
day when we wanted stuff and they wouldn't deliver. Now it's the total opposite. Now we get stuff we don't want, and
Right.
and people hate it, and they make more seasons of it. Like Strange New World. Sorry, I have to bring up New Trek. Sorry,
We're
still kind of
Don't worry, Section 31 is coming.
I do not know of this new Trek that you speak.
Yeah,
of.
we don't even acknowledge that. Ironcaster, have you seen Ironcaster? You have a take on Galaxy Quest, the great parody that it is.
I think I caught it on TV like.
Oh, okay, we're
2
gonna
years ago.
prioritize.
Out. Get him out. How can you not see Galaxy Quest? Out.
Okay, we're gonna prioritize
no.
getting Galaxy Quest into. So we have True Lies. We got to land. We're getting True Lies into the hopper. We're getting with Squeaka, because I got to figure out how to get her back into the loop to do the Kung Fu Hustle, and then we got to figure out to get Galaxy Quest in. Listen, we're Ironcaster has been a work in progress. We've done good work here, Loki. We've done good work, and I think he's seen it, but we just got to brush it up. We got to elevate it. That's all.
The engineer
have I ever
in
told you
Galaxy
guys?
Quest is like the greatest engineer. He's right up there with Scotty, especially when he's kissing the girl and you see all these tentacles go up on his face, and he's like, "I don't care," and he goes in anyway. Brilliant. You got to see Galaxy Quest, bro.
It's on the list. Like I said, it's been like 20 years. Like
I haven't watched it in a while.
I remember the
I
countdown.
will admit it's going to be a fun one that we'll try to prioritize. So, Mark is with
have I ever
everybody on
told
the
you
Deep
guys-
Space Nine, being self-contained. Go ahead, Ironcaster.
Oh, just have I ever told you guys about like my own like interactions with Star Trek growing up?
No, rehash it if you have. Let's just do it again, man. Somebody out there new that doesn't know, so let's do it again.
So, for me growing up, Star Trek was just something that was just kind of on when The Simpsons ended. Like, basically when it was kind of like on reruns on like the Fox or UPN or whatever the
UPN.
network.
Yep, UPN.
And so it was just like, oh, this is like the cartoons are over. So like it was on. I remember liking Riker, even though I didn't know his name. I'm like, this guy looks cool. And it wasn't until probably the mid 2000s before I sat down and properly started to watch Star Trek. Specifically, would be when G4 TV was airing them on TV, and they had added this extra little bit of a chat that was as sort of a feed scrolling across the bottom. So I started watching Star Trek with a chat, and we were kind of talking about the show. And I'm learning about the show this way. And then I'm looking over at the TV from my computer and I'm seeing, hey, there's my comic going across the TV. And then I quickly, I absolutely love the original series. That is my favorite Star Trek series, though DS9 is probably a close second.
You're right there with me, bro. You're right there with me.
I didn't see any of the movies in theaters until the last one of all movies. Because you gotta realize
a JJ
Beyond?
The third JJ.
And then that's not even JJ. That was what's his name? Justin Lin.
Because again, you gotta remember, I didn't start getting into Star Trek until after Enterprise had ended.
Wow. All right.
It was in one of the lull. It was in that little lull between that and.
I think my Trek status has just risen. That's all I'm saying here, folks. I'm just letting everybody know. I'm at least, so all right.
Hey, I'm still there.
I said risen. I'm not. Trust me, I'm not going to be able to hold a candle to you guys. Project Cambrian's here. Say hey to him. Let's see what else is here to catch up on. Another great comment from Fred talking about the underrated movie. Stay tuned with John Ritter. So yeah, Star Trek.
I remember the commercial for that. I still haven't seen that.
Yeah. This is Mark, another great comment about the crossover ended with the 3 movies. Typical executive interference. Yeah, the studios are just such morons. So, Jacob's giving some love for Galaxy Quest. More love for Galaxy Quest. A couple more. So, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Fantastic Voyage. Yeah, those are great films for sure.
I think I saw those as a kid.
Yeah, good stuff. So
they're on my list.
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah, that's
Moby
my favorite.
Dick.
Yeah,
Go read Moby Dick. That whole end of Star Trek 2. Suddenly you're like, wow, so that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, in the movie itself, he has a copy of Moby Dick.
Moby Dick on the
Botany Bay.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Oh,
we got to get
no.
out of here, damn.
I was watching that with
Never
Eris,
forget the
and I was
fist.
like, why doesn't this scene make sense? And she's like, I don't know why. I was like, because Chekhov wasn't on Star Trek yet. She goes, and I said, the story is that he was on the night crew and hadn't, he wasn't a like day bridge officer yet or whatever, but he hadn't joined the crew yet. So how would he know Khan? He wasn't there, and Khan would know him. But of course,
it's funny. During the production, it was DeForest Kelly's like, "Hey, Chekhov wasn't in this," and they're just like,
oops.
I forget. Like Nicholas Meyer said that. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle made those type of mistakes in his books and all, in his works and all that. I'm just like, oh, shut up.
We'll just say he was on the night crew.
He was on, because I think it was in the Wrath of Khan novelization, the Vonda McIntyre novelization that I think established that, and then I think they further. I forget if they did something different, but in the To Reign in Hell book, I think revealed that Chekhov was there too, or something, was on the ship too. I forget exactly in what capacity. So
I have to admit,
Star Trek nerds.
Rewatching the movies, which of course everybody has heard me, because we did talk, one of our earliest talk cards was on Wrath of Khan. So I'll put some more links out there for people who have missed that. It was one of the earliest ones. It's like it is among the perfect films. It just keeps getting better every time I watch it. But rewatching 3 and 4 today again made me revisit my takes on them, because I have been way too hard on 3 and way too lenient on 4. Is how I feel now, because I think with 3, it's simple, but it's well executed with a couple beats that are very, very powerful. And Loki quoted it earlier. The biggest thing is, why did you do this? Why did you sacrifice so much? Like, well, I couldn't live with myself. Basically, I would have lost my soul.
Yeah.
The time travel stuff and some of the effects in 4 I'd forgotten and don't age well, and they create like continuity issues and things like that. But I had always had in my head 4 is better than 3, and now I'm not quite sure that I kind of have them a lot more evened out than I did before.
Well, it's a different. Yeah. It's a totally different movie and
tone. Yeah.
I mean, 4 is like the last leg of the finish line, and they did a great job. It's fun. You have a fun time. You laugh. It's the most popular Star Trek movie that was ever made. As far as like, so many normies went to see it because Save the Whales. And it was just huge. People who didn't watch Star Trek were like, oh, the one with the whales. Yeah, the one with the whales. Star Trek 4. They knew it because they went and saw it. So it's like, yeah, 3's excellent for everything it did. But 4 was that last leg to the finish line that they did, and then you had 5. And it's like...
For me, I just meant it more as like actual like film critique for me, because I could care less about the whales thing. Like, I get it, but to me the bigger issue with the movie was the time traveling glitch and conveniences and contrivances. I sure gave that movie a lot of passes in my impression of it in the past, because I don't really rewatch these movies. I haven't really rewatched them in a long time.
Pops. I think you've been doing too much LDS. I think you need some Italian. Go get some Italian. Sorry, I just had to. I love
Italian. So
you. Yes.
No.
Ezekiel's just gonna sit in the bushes while it's his way. It's his way.
Who doesn't love the 2 garbage truck guys? I didn't see nothing, and neither did you. Get in the damn truck.
Well, no, it's not that there's not good moments. There's not. It's. I think. And I get it. Nimoy definitely wanted to add a lot more levity. He thought it was a great way to kind of, again, get the franchise out to a lot of normies and things like that. And I don't think it was a bad film or anything like that. I think that if you had asked me before we did this rewatch in this show, I would have ranked them, 2, 4, 3, and now I'm sort of like 3 and 4 is kind of like you said. And I will admit, though, I think Mark said it best. Like, because 3 is a bridge movie, it's a battle movie. I think that's just what I enjoy more, right? I'm a Wrath of Khan guy. Like, that is more my speed of what I'm going to enjoy. And I've been transparent when I talk about TOS. Like, I'm enjoying those type of episodes a lot more than some of the others. That's just how I am.
The more weighty, operatic style is what you like, right, Pops?
Yes.
Not the cutesy. not the cute.
Yeah, I'm
I
not going to
was-
be cutesy because usually there's not meat on the bone for a cutesy film. So that's usually the problem with those. But you know,
I was a bit surprised in revisiting through Star Trek 4. It's kind of, by and large, admittedly been one of my least favorite ones because just the time travel has always been a turnoff for me for stories.
Hey, Ironcaster, Gracie is pregnant. No.
Say what? I want to know how the hell you know that. Gracie does. Nobody knows about that. Nobody knows about that. Gracie does.
Gracie does. No, it's like he did. Well, and I got to be honest. Nimoy did what directors that direct themselves does. He gives himself a lot of great lines, so it just lends itself for also having fun and doing things. Again, I didn't hate it. It's just I'm with you, Ironcaster. But I will say
the thing that actually kind of won me over in rewatching it, and just kind of in rewatching these movies over this last week, was there's a couple characters I was really queuing in more on when I was watching. I was trying to pay more attention to this character, that character. You know, you oftentimes pick up other little things. And rewatching through 2, I was really watching more of Savick, who seems which was kind of an interesting one to watch there. In 3, I was really getting more into sort of that friend, that kind of connecting friendship of the crew as being more than just people serving in this military. And in the 4th one, it was that camaraderie really shone through for me, and it helped me come to appreciate 4 a lot more for what it was. Getting to see them just so far outside of their natural elements in this in the 80s, just wandering around the city while they're trying to be completely standing out and not at the same time.
No, I love that. I think that it's way more. 4 has always been a solid movie for me. I'm not trying to say that. I just I don't know. Maybe Slasher Fred hit a little bit here because I think that you know what it is. It's sort of like it's got Marvel humor, right? It's got like jokey jokes, and you're like, oh, well, Star Trek didn't have a lot of jokey jokes. Like the humor in Trek, especially with Khan and Search for Spock and a lot of TOS stuff, didn't tend to lend itself to cutesy jokey joke. And I mean, he let himself bring that in a lot more, which is fine. It's okay. I don't know that it makes me want to watch 5 and 6 though, because I have mixed feelings about watching 5 and 6. So I don't know.
5 can be fun. I mean, it's just a reminder. 4 just reminds us that, remember, the crew is they're still human, so they're still, you know, they still have, you know, flaws and you know, sometimes sometimes they don't know everything, and that's kind of the whole fish out of water approach that they did with the Voyage Home. I mean, there were things that they didn't pick up on, and of course 4, because Spock recently came back to life, I guess he still kind of has the mind of a child or something, so he's kind of misbehaving, you know, like he just dives into the aquarium and mind melds for some reason with he's just like, okay, I want to get the whales permission or tell the whales our intent without asking Kirk. And then you get this funny scene where, you know, Spock is just, you know, just playing it straight, saying, oh yeah, I was just they're not the hell your whales and whatever. So I mean, it was weird. It's weird. Like,
pretty good job though of making him like not understand humor. He didn't understand satire. He didn't understand so I get some of that stuff. I think works pretty well.
We had died, so Spock did after. Okay, so before the motion picture, Spock kind of teetered on the I can tell like a base pan cold joke every once in a while. He did lay down a zinger or two with Kirk and Bones on the bridge where it's like, okay, the human half of him kind of showed a little bit, even though he was like, you know, eyebrow up, indeed, right? And then would just walk off and ignore it and act like it never happened. Then in the motion picture, he tries to wash all emotion out of himself. He touches V'ger, starts crying, and then in 2, he does the most logical thing. But he had softened, especially with Savick. He'd softened because he was the teacher and he was teaching a student how to do this and how to do that. He kind of softened. Then he dies. He comes back, and even his mom is like, okay, you should know this. And he's like, I don't get it. I'm not, you know, the training of your mind has been in the Vulcan way. You've forgotten that little part of you that was human. So he's got to kind of get back in touch with that. And I do have a question. I've got a question for everybody out there in the panel. Okay, knowing what we know about George Takei, what exactly did he do to get that helicopter?
He talked to a dude. Oh my!
It was just so
Oh
abrupt
my.
for me. I was
you
kind of
mind
like,
if I ask you a
wait,
couple of questions?
He probably
I just
trained in fencing the sword.
I just sort of like, wait, what happened? Like, there was kind of like some abruptness with 4. Like I said, I kind of gave this movie a pass in my brain before rewatching it, but there's a lot of these kind of things that just kind of would happen. So, and here's a question that I can answer. Go ahead.
I just kind of read it as he was kind of asking some question about how to like actually get the thing started.
Yeah, but then he has it. So
He just
how
took
did
it.
he get it?
Yeah.
He just took it.
He just took it. That's what we're gonna go with. He didn't like, you know, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. 'Cause that's what Scotty had to do. Scotty be like, how do I know he didn't invent the thing? What was Sulu going like? How do you know? I wasn't supposed to, do a little, a little business.
It was San Francisco.
It was.
They are in San Francisco. Yes, indeed. I can answer this question. Yes. Thanks to NERDPOREAL and his guidance, I have been rewatching Trek original series, and yes, Clint Howard is sort of the Q-like, godlike little child character.
Well, I mean, he's not really Q-like. He's just from an advanced. Trelane. William Campbell was the Q-like character. So
okay.
But yeah, little Baylock was he's just a little alien that looks like a kid that just commands. He's a single commander of a big ship. Everything else, I guess, is automated or something. But yeah, Corbomite, great episode to start with. When I started doing, I needed to go back with Gray Wakizashi's Tea House and do some more of these streams. So he was like, what episode should we start with? I was like, the true beginning of Star Trek, in my opinion, was the Corbomite maneuver. So
Voyage Home is a very human. It's just what the franchise needed to get to a wider audience. That extends what Loki said too. Yeah, try to make it more mass appeal, a lot more humor, save the whales, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, Nimoy. This was just something Nimoy really wanted to do. He got more creative freedom. He didn't have the freedom that in Search for Spock. So here he decided, I want to do this. He wanted to do a comedy, so he did a comedy.
Look how they followed it up with 5. William Shatner co-wrote.
He directed 5 because of some deal that they had. Like him and Nimoy there was some sort of deal where if Nimoy did something, Shatner would get given the opportunity to do it too. And they Shatner originally wasn't. He's like, I'm not going to do 4 if you guys don't pay me enough. So they were teasing another Starfleet Academy idea because that's where they go to when when they're at a dead end. So
out of ideas.
What we get in the JJ verse was actually being planned way back in the day. That's what a lot of people know. The pods and all that stuff was done way back in the day when they were drawing up concept art to like, what if we can't get them back? We'll just start over with this young group of. We'll do a young Kirk and a young Spock and a young. No, thank you.
Well, you got to remember that. The reason we got William Shatner directing Star Trek V is because Leonard Nimoy pointed out to him, was like, Bill, we get the same deal, and I'm directing Star Trek 4.
Yeah, that movie 5 was a disaster. They couldn't get ILM to do the effects, and if you've ever seen like the press show or something. Shatner introduced the rest of the crew. He forgot Walter Koenig's name, or I don't know if he did that just to be a jerk. He's like, "Here's the guy that plays Chekhov," and Walter Koenig's like, "Bro, like, what the f? I'm Walter Koenig." And poor Harv Bennett was not having a good day either. So they were just like, "Turn off the damn music and everything." So yeah. If you haven't seen it, you gotta watch the press showing of Star Trek V. It's a shit show.
Was Sigourney Weaver rumored to be the whale girl at one point? Was she part of that process? Maybe.
Eddie Murphy was originally supposed to be Catherine Hicks's character. He was supposed to be a professor who liked to whistle whale songs and all that. And so they hired these writers to write him into it. And he looks at the script. He's like, "This sucks." And then he goes and makes The Golden Child instead, which also sucked. So,
all right.
I had no idea. I didn't know Eddie Murphy was a big Trek fan. That blew me away when I first learned that. So,
Well, as much as I do not like her now, Whoopi was huge ever since a little kid. She was a little kid. There's that story she always tells about how the first time she turned on Star Trek, she ran through the house screaming, "Mama, Mama, there's a black lady on TV and she ain't no maid." And she had the aliens. She was like, "They have butt heads. They're like a butt. It's like a butt on their forehead." And all kinds of cool stuff. And she had told that story to LeVar Burton. And LeVar Burton was like, you're looking for this character for the bar Whoopi Goldberg would love. And they laughed at him. They laughed at LeVar Burton. They were like, you're pulling our leg. Whoopi's never going to come on and be on our show. And he was like, "No, I'm serious." And he called her and he's like, can you just come down here? Come down here, visit the set, hang out for a minute. She goes down there. And she's like, I would love to be the bartender on your show. And they were like,
Yeah, I thought that was it's funny. I don't know if this is true, Loki, but I heard she only had 1 day availability. So any scenes with her for a season, I think they had to shoot them all in a single day. Is that accurate?
I never heard that. It may be. It's possible, but I'd never heard that. I can't imagine they would do that. Like, because they have changed so many changes. They were constantly changing now that may have been, they kind of got their crap together after Best of Both Worlds, but she was there then.
Yeah.
But they were constantly changing, like, okay, we're going to do this. And then they were like, no, we're not going to do that. And they'd have a script come in and they'd be like, this is great. And then they'd throw it away and say it was crap. There was so much chaos. One of the real good documentaries, if you haven't watched it, watch Chaos on the Bridge. Some of it, some people say is BS, like the problems they had with Roddenberry, but it's a good documentary and talks about a lot of the chaos they had with the scripts, with Gene, with Patrick. Patrick was almost like, I'm out, guys. I'm done. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And if you listen to what Patrick said, I went in there and I laid it on the table. And they were like, yes, Sir Patrick. If you listen to the producer at Paramount, he said, okay, we'll see you later. Bye. We won't have you back. We'll kill you off at the end of the season. And Patrick was like, no, wait a minute. I would like to renegotiate. But who knows who the hell's telling the truth? Who knows what really happened? It's probably a mix of both. Patrick's probably exaggerating how he went in and just flopped it on the table and was like, I'm Sir Patrick Stewart. And he's probably exaggerating the fact that he was like, bye. So,
I didn't know I didn't know he was knighted then. I guess he was.
He wasn't, but this was made, I think this was made like 5 or 6 years ago. So they were calling him Sir Patrick. Him Sir Patrick.
Yeah. Makes sense.
This is a really good comment because I gotta have to agree. That's kind of how I felt too. Like there was definitely a shift after 5 and into 6. Like there's a time there where it sort of like shifted with TNG. Like, TNG's not so bad. So I'm not sure where the timeline is exactly on them existing and where things lined up, but I totally agree. And it kind of got to the original cast member started to feel very, very old. It started to feel wrong. So yeah,
I had a bad experience with the beginning of every series. I had a bad experience. TNG came along. Unfortunately, I grew up, little kid sitting on his dad's knee watching Star Trek. So I loved the swashbuckling adventures and the sword fighting and the fighting with the Klingons and all that. I get to TNG and I'm like, this is boring. I was only like 7 or 8 years old. I didn't like it. I didn't like the first season. I didn't like watching them. My dad watched every single episode, but I didn't like it. I'd rather sit there and color, play, or draw, or do something. DS9, when DS9 came on, all it took was Cisco being like, I was at the Battle of Wolf 359. You betrayed the Federation. And I was like, I did not like Cisco. And it took me a while. It took me probably season 2 to start going, okay, he's mellowed. When Worf came on and he told Worf, somebody kept me from walking away from the Federation. I was like, that's Picard! That's my boy! Y'all finally made up! Yeah! All right, you appreciate the fact that he stopped you from leaving. Thank you. All right, best captain ever. and then Janeway just didn't have balls in the first season. I hate to put it that way, but she didn't. Every time she'd be like, if you attack my people again, I will destroy your entire planet and kill all your people. And then it was like, they did it again. It was the Bedians. She's like, if you ever hurt my people again, I will hunt your entire species down. They do it again.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, you know what? I didn't do anything, and we've set a course for home. Oh, Commander Tuvok, there's a nebula over there that may have coffee. Stop.
I got a question for you, Loki.
Yes.
Do you think Janeway made the right call stranding the crew in the Delta Quadrant by blowing up the array?
No. No, I do not.
I
understand that it's Captain Catherine and Janeway, but no, I don't think she did. I don't think she thought she did. I thought she spent 7 years going, I screwed up. And that's why when old Janeway shows up, she goes, you know what? I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I'll listen to what she has to say and we'll try it. She kind of made up for that mistake by getting them home earlier. And it took old Janeway going, you're going to lose 7. You're going to lose Tuvok, and you're going to lose Chakotay. If you don't do what I'm telling you to, you're going to lose main members of your family. And it stopped and made her think, you know what? It's time to bend the rules. Get us home. That's the most important thing. Get us home.
Yeah,
I didn't think they would. I really didn't, man. Those last 5 minutes, I was like, they're gonna pull a quantum leap, and it's gonna be like, and no one ever heard from Voyager ever again. They're gonna decide to collapse this transwarp conduit, and they're gonna get stuck out in the middle of BFE all over again because of her conscience. But they didn't do that, and they got home, and I was like, okay, all right, you got your guys home.
I actually was curious if they were gonna get home. I was a kid at the time, but I was curious myself if they were gonna get home. I was happy they did, but after watching it now in retrospect, I think they needed one more episode to kind of wrap everything up.
Yes. Them going back to Starfleet and debriefing and kind of Janeway on trial. Like, well, look at this. You destroyed a Federation ship. Yeah, it was doing some hanky stuff. And kind of giving her the business, and then the entire crew comes together, and you have no idea what she sacrificed to do.
They should listen to a Voyager stream.
They should have done that. Sorry.
What is
I started bringing up.
You're fine. What is your guys's take, sort of like the rewatchability on these 3 films together? Because do you find yourself when you watch Wrath of Khan immediately jumping right into 3 and 4, or is that just not the case?
Not really. Wrath of Khan on its own is completely watchable. That's the one that, anytime throw that one on, no problem. I watch 3 on occasion. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff in there. I'm a big fan of McCoy, but I mean, the other 2, I've just honestly, up until kind of rewatching it here today, I just hadn't really had a strong kind of gravitation towards 4. Like I kind of liked it least of them all just because of the time travel stuff. And I'm admitting, like, hey, there's more to it than kind of I remember.
Okay, fair enough. What about you, NERDPOREAL?
I mean, lately no, but before, that was my, if I went through something really stressful or distressful, if I had to study for finals, or if I went through some sort of medical scare, or in my case when my own father passed away, those movies were comforting. And after my father passed away, the Wrath of Khan completely changed for me. Because the way Kirk reacts to Spock's death was how I reacted when my mom calls me and says Dad's gone. So because I wasn't there when he died, I was 3 hours away. So his reaction, and just after being an adult for a while, the movie rings so much more true. It's so weird because when I was a kid, it was a cool movie. I thought it was a cool movie when I was a kid, but then as an adult, it just rings so much more true, and it's that much more powerful. I don't think any other movie has ever done that to me. So that was Wrath of Khan. Search for Spock, I still loved Search for Spock for the same reason I said before, with about going back for your friend lost and all that. The cool part of stealing the Enterprise, which now I think seems to be a thing that they just like to copy. They like to copy beats from the movies now. In New Trek.
Well, wait, what are you talking about? JJ would never steal a plot element from another movie.
Oh, right, that's a homage. Sorry.
Homage.
But yeah,
Moomber berries.
Voyage Home, actually, I did not enjoy at first as a kid because of how tonally different it was. But as an adult, hanging out with people and watching it and just, and just like quoting all the jokes and all that and enjoying like, what do you call it? The self deprecating humor, especially to ourselves, like, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I say we're in the late 20th century, Admiral. So I mean, stuff like that just cheers me up, and I do like to watch the movies together. Usually, I just haven't done it lately, just for time and all that. But yeah, it's definitely those three are magic.
Did you ever read about the since you brought up the chase scene, the stealing the Enterprise? Did you ever read the schematic book on the Excelsior where they talk about the transwarp drive? Okay,
no.
So Scotty steals all the chips out of the transwarp computer drive, right?
Yes.
So that the computer drive, it will not engage. They do a check on the engines after they tow it, because they have to tow it back into space dock. They can't get anything to work after that. So they tow the Excelsior back into space dock, and they do a check on the engines, and they realize that if they had gone to transwarp, it would have killed everyone on the crew. It would have killed the entire crew. So they explain this as the transwarp drive was based on the dimensional shifting in the Tholian web, where Kirk's disappearing and reappearing.
Inner space, yeah.
Right? Okay, that level of space is like toxic to human beings. That's why the crew went mad and killed each other on the Defiant. This also connects to Enterprise when they find the Defiant and Enterprise. If they had gone to transwarp to follow the Enterprise, everybody on the ship would have died. That is why they pulled the transwarp drive out of the Excelsior and place it with a standard warp. It's one of those little things that they never go into detail about, but you're like, why did they put a regular warp core on there? Why did they have to refit it? What was wrong with the drive? If all was wrong was Scotty pulled the chips, then why didn't they just put the chips back in and make it work right? Because it
Loki, I think there's a difference though there, in that this is a good movie to begin. 3 is a good movie to begin with, and it's just like, kind of, to take kind of a modern example, the Star Wars sequels, like the fact that they keep trying to then go back and explain all the stuff about that movie, that it's a bad movie to begin with. Why would I want to bother learning about all these things that make that movie work in a justifiable way?
I don't know these sequels you're talking about. I'm still waiting for.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, there were these other movies J.J. Abrams tried to work on that's not very good.
I don't think J.J. Abrams exists. I think he's just. I think he's a figment of a lot of people's imagination.
I think he's still on that island.
Yeah.
I think he's still lost.
I think this is a really good comment as well. I think it's curious how new viewers react to these films, because so much of the appeal is bound to your feeling of family and growing old with the TOS cast. I find it interesting as someone who is, growing up with them, whereas on the panel, everyone here sort of like had different gateway films. Like you saw this one first versus that one. You saw one in the theater, saw one. So I think I really agree with you there, So Commander, because that's kind of how I felt. Like, with Wrath of Khan and then being back in the theater and all of that, by the time you get to the 5th or 6th one, you sort of you definitely felt like it was time to move on. And obviously, when you got to TNG season 3, we were all kind of watching TNG by then. Like by the time you got there, they kind of worked out their bugs, and it kind of, it was the new thing. So, the stealing of the Enterprise and the crew, watching it burn up in Genesis, iconic scenes. Yeah, definitely for Trek fans for sure. I liked it. It was shot well. I liked it.
I love those scenes. Like it's definitely something that's, it's great cinema.
The BK drinking glass, Taco Bell's made so much lesser with those Star Trek 3 glasses. Yeah, Pattis probably has them for sure. So, and the transwarps didn't work. Yep.
I was curious about that because you hear transwarp in Star Trek 3, and then if you watch Voyager, the Borg had transwarp too. So I'm curious if they're the same idea, if they're just different. They just use the same. They reuse the name transwarp.
The Borg use conduits. So
yeah,
the Excelsior was trying to slip into another level of subspace that they could go faster, because that's basically what warp drive does. Warp drive creates a bubble around the ship that brings it into a different level of space so that it can go
subspace.
They're bending the laws of relativity. The transwarp takes you in a different level, and that level's toxic to human beings. The Borg open a conduit, so they tear a hole in subspace and go into a whole different. It's a whole different deal. So yeah, they use the term, but it's not the same kind of technology.
I see.
That route Starfleet took was an absolute failure. I don't know if they could ever figure out how to tune the shields a certain way or whatever to protect the crew, but they couldn't back in the TOS era. TMC, whatever.
So Pops, I know the big question that you had that's pretty much the title of this stream is this trilogy underrated?
Yeah.
I mean the movies the movies individually, maybe 3, I think would be considered underrated. I think 2 is definitely not underrated at all. It's widely praised by Trek fans and normies alike. I think 4 is pretty, like you said, mainstream too. So, but this is a trilogy, underrated. Yeah, I think in some ways it is. I think people forget that there's continuity between them and everything. So,
because there's more continuity and a self-contained story between these 3 movies than, because we talked about Indiana. We're going to do Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, so it's like a prequel movie. It's like they're sort of out of order and things like that. And it seems like with Trek seems, I want to say penalized, but it's not. These 3 films don't get the respect in their little standalone journey because of all the other movies around it and other franchises. I think I don't know. It feels like in hindsight, I'm so much more impressed by watching them back to back like this, because I feel like it took where they were, took them on this event, lost this major character, went on a journey, him. Then it was like how they brought him back and saved everybody and got redemption, because obviously all the charges against Kirk are basically dropped, except he gets to be a captain again. But it's like it did such a great job of kind of like refocusing the franchise in a way that it could move forward in a very self-contained way. And a lot of other trilogies and things, I mean, really, it does more and is more powerful for the characters and their arcs than even like Back to the Future is. I mean, I love Back to the Future as a trilogy, but really, I mean, this is way more complicated and interesting as a trilogy than Back to the Future.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least with the Star Trek movies, you have the advantage of having 3 seasons of the original series to have done a lot of the heavy lifting of the character development, whereas Back to the Future has to fit it all within that 90 minutes runtime for each movie.
Right, but again, with Back to the Future, it's like a contrived reason for us to have a second and a third movie. I felt robbed in Back to the Future too. I remember it ended, and I'm like, so it's not really a movie. It's just like part 1 of another movie. So it's really not. They didn't even really try to fool us that it was really a second movie. It was just one giant movie they split into part 1, part 2.
Marty, we have to go back to the sequel.
I just got back.
You gotta go back with me, Marty.
I'm the Western Union. We had bets. I guess I lose. You're just, what is happening? Like, what? I don't understand. Like, so again, I'm not trying to bash Back to the Future. I love Back to the Future, but I have a lot more respect for the trilogy, the Genesis trilogy now, rewatching them, because I felt like it impacts a lot of character arc, a lot of character development, a lot of different things. I mean, literally, there's so much stuff going on, even in 4. Like we shouldn't discount 4 here as well, because I mean, obviously, to get to see Bones and Scotty, and getting to see however Sulu ends up with a helicopter, and getting to see Chekhov be oblivious to what the Russian life would be like in the 80s. Like there's a lot of good stuff in there in that other films. And okay, let me ask, here's a softball. Clearly it's a better trilogy of films to watch than like the Matrix films. Agreed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
I can
by far. Like I would rather sit through these 3 movies than have to watch 2 and 3 of the Matrix movies. Like I just do not want to sit through the second and third one of those. Like, so there's tons of those examples we could probably come up with.
You mean to tell me you don't want to get into all this deep esoteric philosophy that we're like totally not pulling out of our asses to try to explain how computers and the internet work?
It's not deep and it's not philosophical. It's just a bunch of jargon and word salad by people who are not nearly as intelligent as they think they are, because they stole most of the principles from the first movie from other people who were smarter than them. So,
real quick, my favorite part about those movies is the fact that like the Wachowskis hate how the red pill got co-opted into a political message.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I can see that they would take offense to that for sure.
Do you remember,
and I'm happy that we did.
Do you remember how many people came out of that and were like, I don't know what I just watched? And you're like, how do you not understand what you just watched? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
I don't get it, but I have an urge to wear a trench coat now.
They're hooked up to a computer, dumbass. They're like living virtually in a virtual world. That doesn't make any sense, man. Yeah, sure it does. I don't know. Maybe I just knew too many stoners back in the day that didn't get it. That didn't think it was like, it's not possible. It's possible.
Okay, so here's the Star Trek glasses via Pat S. Here we go.
Oh, nice.
Leave it to Pat.
Yeah, Pat's definitely going to have stuff like this for sure.
Give me Genesis.
Yeah.
Genesis.
Marty, you've got to come back with me. Where, Doc? Back to my bird of prey.
He was not as off-putting as a Klingon as I had remembered. So I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't dislike it nearly as much as I thought I did. So,
dude, when he tells Savick, he's like, "You will give me what I want, or I will pain something you enjoy." Do you know what he's telling her?
Oh yeah.
Do you realize what he's like? I mean, they
yeah.
you know they did it. They did it, but it's there. Pain something you enjoy.
Yeah, it was hardcore stuff. I liked it. It was
good.
It's
the only thing with ridges.
Oh dear Lord.
You got to, I mean, but with that movie, at least Kirk got to fight. He got to fight Christopher Lloyd in that one. So we got a nice little fight, and Christopher Lloyd got the death he deserved. Fall down into the lava because he killed David and all. He had David killed. So I mean, yeah, it was
his name.
Because that was one thing that was
complained about too. Is that what you were going to bring up? Yeah, the Khan. He never saw Khan.
No, like they both Shatner and Montalban had 2 different schedules, so they could never be in the same scene together. So they had to kind of work that. They had to figure out how to work that out. You know what? The movie was still. I think the movie was all the better for it. Kind of like Jaws. You don't see the shark until the very end, and then when you see at the end, there's a big giant hole, and you can see right through the shark. So it's just same idea. Like it was just like lightning in a bottle. And Wrath of Khan to me was basically, even though the motion picture was successful, they felt it wasn't successful. So they got rid of Roddenberry. They felt the movie cost too much money.
Yep.
They wanted to take Star Trek in a different direction, and the critics didn't like it. And heck, they hired. I mean, everybody knows. Any Trek fan knows. They hired Harv Bennett to produce Star Trek 2 and produce Star Trek 2 through 5. Even he said that the motion picture was pretty boring. So Roddenberry was pretty much kicked down. Roddenberry came up with a stupid idea, something about Klingons and the Guardian of Forever and John F. Kennedy or something, like some time travel story. And Paramount's like, okay, you're out. You're not doing this. You're out of here. So Wrath of Khan was basically felt like a reinvention of the motion picture. So they reused a lot of stuff from the motion picture. Like you see the same. They go to the Enterprise in the shuttle pod, and You know, they reused a lot of the things, the Klingon ships in the beginning of motion picture they used for the Kobayashi Maru. You know, Epsilon 9 was inverted and became the regular one science station. So I mean, the one thing that they did quite a bit of was cost cutting. And the reason why James Horner was hired was because, well, Jerry Goldsmith was too expensive, and he would have been too expensive for the budget that they had. So there you go. And then plus you had Nicholas Meyer, who basically he did the final rewrites of the movie for free. He did not get paid. He did not get a writer's credit. So Harv Bennett came up with the story with, you know, bringing Khan. He watched all the episodes. He thought the movies needed a definitive villain. So he's like, Khan was the one that nearly defeated the triad of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in Space Seed. So they bring Khan in. I think he came up with the idea of Kirk having a son. So they added that idea. And then they hired Jack Sowards, and Jack Sowards came up with the idea of a super weapon, but they decided not to have a super weapon, but something that would be that would come across as beneficial, but also dangerous. So the Omega weapon became the Genesis device. And then, you know, the Nicholas Meyer kind of put all that together, and the whole idea of Spock dying was because Nimoy was not interested in being in the movie. So he wasn't interested in being in phase 2 unless they made the movie. So they made the movie. So he came back. They cut the character of Zahn, which was another Vulcan science officer, and they killed the character off. They made another character, another Vulcan science officer, and they killed him off in a creepy way in the motion picture. But I'm getting ahead of myself right there. But Meyer put the Wrath of Khan together brilliantly, and he was a big fan of Horatio Hornblower, and Horatio Hornblower was what inspired Roddenberry to create, you know, Captain Pike or Captain April, and then Captain Pike, and then Captain Kirk. So the fact that they had similar ideas, I think, was coincidental and just brilliant. So, and then the Wrath of Khan's history. I mean, Khan, I have given you no word to keep, Admiral. But from my point of view, you have no alternative.
Imagine having to go to a studio and go, I want all your Star Trek. Huh? I want all your Star Trek. Give me all your Star Trek. He couldn't just go, okay, you know what, Netflix, let's Netflix this bitch. No,
Yo, Star Trek, give it to me.
And be like, give me all the episodes. And he sat in that, what was it, a hotel room? It wasn't his house. He was like, I went into a hotel room, I hit the blinds, I put the reel-to-reel on, and I watched every single episode, and then I said, this is what we're going to do. That's brilliant. That is brilliant. That is dedication. That's what we want today, and that's not what we're going to get today. And they'll make all kinds of crap and spend all kinds of money and hundreds of millions of dollars on crap, and no one cares.
Nowadays we're told no, don't watch the source material. We don't want a continuation of that. We want your story.
Yeah.
No, we don't want your story because we don't know who you are. We want.
Well, I still think it's just a miracle because I totally agree with the sentiment that motion picture was not a success. I don't care about box office, whatever. Just the footprint in pop culture at that time, in that era, with the boom of so many other movies and other genres. In the wake of Star Wars and everything else that's happening, motion picture was kind of, I don't want to say a wet fart, but it definitely kind of felt like it was like, all right, it was all right. I mean, it was fine. It's long and boring. I don't want to sit through it again. And it kind of grows on you over time. You just enjoy seeing them come back together, you know, those kinds of things. But if it wasn't for Wrath of Khan, this stuff would have just, it would have really kind of died on the vein in the pulse of the 1980s because there were just so many good things. You have to remember, like, by the time you get to, you know, Search for Spock and stuff like that, we're looking at, you know, the boom of like Terminator, Back to the Future is going to come on board in a year, things like that. So it's just, there's so many other things that we were watching. It was hard to find a room for themselves. And if it wasn't for these iconic characters like McCoy and Spock and Kirk, to have something to build around, Wrath of Khan was just a genius move because you had to start with a villain. You have to have a good villain. And reality is most of the time, this new stuff, whatever IP you choose, it's just watered down nonsense, or it's a villain you're supposed to feel sorry for, or it's someone who's not really evil, or it's just, I don't know. Anyway,
And like I said, it's so relatable because it's about getting older. It's about life. You mean, you're getting older. I mean, as Critical Drinker put it, your best day. Kirk's best days are behind him, and that's why he's just sad. He's just like he's melancholy about his birthday. And throughout the whole movie, he's going through like insane thing after insane thing that only a young person would do. So by the time the movie ends, and he quotes freaking the book that Spock gave him, Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, and he quotes the final thing that the character Darnay says right before he goes to the guillotine. I see a far, far better thing than I ever wondered, or something like that. And it's a beautiful thing. And then you think about that, like he's going to his death, and then you think about Spock walking to his death, going into the engine room and repairing the warp drive with all the radiation around him. So I didn't pick up on this until recently. And he's like, the last thing you hear Kirk says is like, "How you feeling, Jim?" Or McCoy's like, "How you feeling, Jim?" And Kirk's like, he's crying. He's like, "Feel young," and he's looking at the newly born Genesis planet. So
they purposely kept the fact that they were leaving an opening. So when you see the tube on Genesis, all of that ending, he had no idea they were going to do that. He had no idea that, okay, we're going to leave the door open to bring Spock back. And Nimoy told them, do not tell him, because everything he's doing in all those scenes, when he's crying, the death, how he's like, I feel young. When he's looking out, and
I had no idea. That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Leonard told them, do not tell them we're in talks and that we're gonna do this, because they did it. They did the funeral, and that was the movie. And the test audience walked out, and it was like, they said it was like a funeral. They said it was like the people exiting a funeral, and they added in that extra. They went back and they talked to Leonard and said, "Would you be interested? Would you want to come back? Would you want to direct the movie? You don't have to be in it except for the very end of it, but would you want to come back and do another one?" And he said, "If we do this, we can't tell Shatner, because you're not going to get the performance. He's gonna it'll be cheap. Can't tell him. We have to keep this secret." So when they went and they saw that they did the red carpet showing.
First time he saw it.
And he said he didn't talk to Leonard for like months. He was so pissed. He was pissed at the studio. He was pissed at Leonard. He was like, how dare you keep that from me and not tell me? I was emotionally pouring my heart out because I thought, this is it. This is the end. We're not going to do anything anymore. And that's why he was like, I want money and I want to direct a movie. I want money and I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
Let me say again, thanks to Scott Westbrook. I appreciate you, man. A $5 super sticker, man. Thank you so much. As Loki and many others say, you keep the lights on, man. Thank you so much for that. You've been a blessing, and really, really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much.
I have a question, if it's okay, Pops.
I just want to say what DJ Ronnie G says. The great line was that when Kirk's breaking up, that he is the most human, is just so good, so good.
And the way he delivers it, he's just like he's trying to strain himself out because he's about to
lose his shit
and all that. So
keep his composure. It's really rough.
Yeah,
been in that shoes. What was your question, NERDPOREAL?
I was going to ask. So yeah, we know Wrath of Khan. They added that scene. Where they're like, oh, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna leave an opening? And of course, you get the I'm sorry, doctor, I have no time to discuss this logically, and then remember and all that, and that leads into 3 and the whole Katra thing. But one thing that a friend of mine watched, I showed this to a friend of mine years ago, and he had a criticism. I'm curious how you guys feel about that. So, big criticism was that 3 undid a lot of the major game changes that Wrath of Khan did. So like the idea that Kirk had a son, was undone. The idea that there was that there was this newly born planet was undone. It was destroyed because David is a toxic male who just cut corners.
Cheated, just like his dad cheated.
Yeah. So
I mean, I don't argue that those are facts because it's true. I don't look. I'll be honest. David is probably one of the weakest elements of the two films for me. Like, I really don't care for the David character. Maybe it's the way they had him play David. Like, I think they were trying too hard. They're trying too hard to make him feel like he's Kirk's son in these weird ways. It just never felt quite right. Then again, like the concept of David cheated and Genesis is a failure. I actually forgot about how cheap that felt in the movie when I was rewatching it. That kind of hit me too. Like, oh, well, that's kind of a cheap excuse and why the planet's exploding. Like, they clearly had to come up with these reasons for certain things to happen.
Yeah,
it was just one of the things they did.
Spock is unstable, therefore the planet itself is unstable.
Yeah.
Did y'all ever play Klingon Academy?
I've seen clips. I've seen clips of Gorkon and Chang in it. So
Chang. Okay, so they all come back to reprise their roles for a video game. You're like, really? Did they? Oh yes, in fact, I've got my box set. I don't know, somewhere over there. That's not important right now. I'll get it before we're done. So they do something absolutely crazy. Chang. In teaching the Klingons how they're going to destroy the Federation, Chang's like, I've got the Genesis device. So all we have to do is get to Earth. We get to Earth. We use a Genesis device on Earth. Federation's broken. No more Federation Council. No more Earth. No more humans to mess with. And we can have our way with everybody. That was Chang's ultimate goal, was to get a cloaked ship into Earth and bomb the Federation with the Genesis device. It used its own weapon against it. And you see this because it like plays out in a simulator before the crap really gets rolling. Because you're in the Klingon Academy. You're learning how to be a badass captain. And this was Chang's plan. And he's teaching all of his students how to do this because he's going to do it. That was the plan. That was his big thing. We're going to fight the Federation. We're going to go to war. We're going to drive all the way to Earth, and then we're going to send in the bomber, and we're going to nuke them with our own weapon. Huge missed opportunity. Why do that in a game? Why not do that? I mean, you've got the weapon, right? Oh, but it doesn't work, and you never hear about it again after that.
Yeah,
as soon as Star Trek 3's over, you never hear about the Genesis device again.
You're like, where did they go next with terraforming and all that? So, I mean, how did they break down that technology? What has it been used for after that? They didn't just waste all that, material, obviously. Section 31 probably has an answer. It's somewhere in Terry Metallis's. What the hell was the name of that Daystrom station? I'm just gonna drink.
Oh.
Pat says he was thrown out of the Klingon Academy. Romulan ale?
Yeah.
Who's got the Romulan ale?
I tried to make Romulan ale once. I used a blue Hawaiian punch and put a whole bunch of hard liquor in it.
Blue Caraco. Okay, so you can't get the Romulan energy drinks anymore. I've got a couple that are probably way out of date, but you get the Romulan energy drink, and there's one called a phase cloak. That's when you use Everclear. But if you want to just make it normally, use Blue Caraco and the Romulan energy drink, and it'll come out a really cool blue. It's smooth, it's good. But if you want to make something called a phase cloak, which means you're like moving in and out, use Everclear.
Loki, have you ever been to the Star Trek Experience?
In Vegas, yes.
Absolutely. Did you have? I heard they served. I never made it to that. So I heard they served Romulan ale there. Is that true?
And I got in a fight with a Klingon about Kirk because I ordered a James T. Kirk. So I ordered a James T. Kirk, and a Klingon came over, and he was like, "Oh, human, you drink like Kirk," and I was like, "Petach," and me and him got into it. You blood wine. You know, I should have been drinking blood wine, and that was the coolest thing. And to hell with them for getting rid of it. That was the absolute coolest thing. You could go to DS9, you could do the Borg experience. There was all kinds of cool stuff you could do.
Did they have all the drinks, like all the fictional drinks, like the Klingon coffee, the Raktajino, the Cardassian Kanar, which is I think it's supposed to be syrup or something.
It's syrup, yeah.
Stephen Ransom, by the way, Gatorade is missing the opportunity. Forget about just Star Trek. They should just have pop culture flavors. There literally should just be. Why are they not rolling out starting in May? May should be Star Wars month because it should just be, the Star Wars month every year in May. They roll out certain limited edition things, and anyway. All right, so let's go around one last time about your thoughts on the Genesis trilogy and kind of is it underrated or not? What are your final thoughts on it? Ironcaster, start with you, my friend.
I mean, I would say this is ultimately the pinnacle of all the Star Trek films. Like, for as good as some of the other ones come, like Nemesis or what's the other one with the Borg? It's just these are the movies. These are the Star Trek movies that ultimately matter the most. The Wrath of Khan is even just a good, like, effectively submarine movie with not very very nautical, very naval. I mean, you have a Khan who basically be Captain Ahab. He's chasing after his white whale, Kirk. You can enjoy these movies on their own without necessarily being into Star Trek, and I think that's the biggest strength of these. Well, two primarily, but you get a nice, compelling story throughout these three to tell a story. And I would say that these aren't underrated. This is like the pinnacle of Star Trek. This is some of the best. This is peak cinema.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Loki?
If you go 1 through 6, if you watch the latest director's cut of 1, it fixes some stuff, but it's still not like a great. I love the fact that they did the Borg V'ger at the end, the actual Borg ship, but it still doesn't fix a lot of the movie. You start out with Wrath of Khan, so just forget that Star Trek 1 exists. Go right to Star Trek Wrath of Khan. Don't even call it Star Trek 2. Just call it Star Trek Wrath of Khan, and then go Star Trek Search for Spock, and then go Star Trek Voyage Home. Don't even number them. Leave the numbers off. And someone should smack anyone at Paramount that's like, we have to put the numbers on them. No, leave the Roman numerals off the movie and just use the titles of the movie. Okay? Don't worry about 1, 2, and 3. Just and let people watch it the way they want to watch it. That's a lot better. 6, you can get into all kinds of BS and crap and whatever. I've had so many arguments over 6 and David and Kirk being like, oh, my son, and all of that. And, oh, it's not really Kirk because he hates the Klingons.
Let them die.
Let them die. Yes, he would say that. He would say that because that was his son. I'm sorry, men and women grieve differently. A woman might be like, but
Shatner himself had a problem saying that too, and Myers like, sure, Bill, and then he leaves it in. he left that in.
So yeah, you gotta just watch them by name. Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Voyage Home, and you can leave everything else out. Watch TOS, watch the 3 movies. If you love TNG, watch TNG, watch their movies, even though their movies kind of really sucked. DS9's still my favorite, and Sisko's my favorite captain. I go back and forth sometimes with the Kirk thing. When they went after Shatner, I said, okay, I'm gonna put my Sisko down for a minute. I'm gonna pick up Kirk, and you keep messing with Shatner, and you're gonna get the Kirk. But
my favorite character is probably Garrick overall.
Oh yeah, easily.
I said captain, not character.
Oh, that's
favorite
a tough
captain.
Thing,
favorite captain is Sisko. My character.
All right. NERDPOREAL?
I mean, to me, these movies pretty much have set the my personal standards for Star Trek. So, like the emotional stakes, the action, the type of action that we get. We don't get we don't get younger characters running like it's Indiana Jones or like it's Star Wars. I mean, this is the. I mean, Star Trek was always, you know, there was action, but there was also a lot of, you know, there was a lot of, you know, intelligent, you know, a lot of intelligent dialogue, a lot of intelligent decision making. So a lot of times the characters were, you know, in decision moments. They weren't just, you know, fighting pew pew. It wasn't that type of thing. Star Trek, they never really went violent unless, you know, like Kirk says throughout the original series, they have no choice. So, like, I mean, like Wrath of Khan, you know, he gets attacked by a villain, by an enemy he hasn't seen in over 15 years. And then we get these amazing performances. Now, I know Montalban was doing Fantasy Island at the time, but he was such a class act. He took the role for less money than he was offered. I don't know how that happens, but it happened for him. He was just that he had to rewatch the Space Seed, because he's been playing the main star of Fantasy Island for a long time. You know, this friendly, you know, likable, relatable guy, to being this bad guy, this villain again. And I think he just knocks it out of the park, and he set the standard for a lot of movie villains. Like he just chews it up like it's nothing. I can quote, you know, I don't know you, but you, I never forget the face. Pops, isn't it? You know, something awesome like that. I never thought to see you again. This Pops' channel. Ironcaster's channel exploded at the time we were done here. Okay, I'm getting a little. This is stuff that stays with you for a long time. And then, you know, the sense of the sense of loss that we get with you know, at the end of the movie with Spock, and the fact that this movie has not only aged well, but has grown with me as I'm getting older, and I'm getting further into my adult years. No other movie has done that. Now the other movies of the trilogy, I feel, are a very good follow-up. They very seamlessly follow each other up. I mean, I know I think Search for Spock begins like maybe a month after Wrath of Khan. I mean, there was a lot of things, like, you know, personnel shift, but I felt like it was a direct follow-up. We get some great stuff from McCoy, and the characters, the other characters, the supporting characters, Sulu, Chekhov, Nichelle Uhura, they got to have bigger roles. They got to shine. You know, George Takei gets to throw a guy and shoot a console, and he's like, "Don't call me tiny." So,
oh, I lost the sound.
We lost your sound, nerd.
We lost you at tiny.
Yeah, we lost you, tiny.
I lost his audio. All right. Well, we'll have him figure out his sound.
You might need to unplug your mic and plug it back in.
Yeah.
Sometimes StreamYards gets iffy with microphones.
Oh yeah, bad attitude. Anything?
Can you hear me now?
Yep. There you are.
But like I said, 3 was just such a high stakes, emotional journey. You know, the loss of the Enterprise, the loss of, you know, David. Even though I know, Pops, I know you said you didn't care for the character as much. I understand that. I thought he did pretty well. I thought he looked just like B.B. Besh and William Shatner in a way. And I think, I mean, the character, I mean, compared to what we get now, I mean, he shined pretty much. And what's weird about what's weird about that particular actor is that he passed away not too long after. So he was in an episode of TNG in season 1 called Symbiosis. It was one about basically drug addiction was the theme. And he, at that time, I don't know if anybody knew this, but he had I don't know if he was gay or something, but he got AIDS, or he got HIV, and he got AIDS, and then he ended up passing away as early as 1989. So by the time Star Trek 6 came out, and you see, you know Shatner talking about David, you see that, you know, frame of David and all that, it has a whole new meaning now after I learned that the actor passed away like that. So it has a whole new meaning now. So not only did the character die, but the actor himself was gone by that point too. So, yeah, and like I said, power. Like, it was just, it's all powerful stuff. I love, I even like 5, but I mean, 4 was something that, going back to 4 really quickly, 4 was something that took me a while to get used to. There's just the change in tone, the change in type of story it was going to tell. And you know what? I loved the whimsical. I loved, Spock being, not knowing better, and like just all the stuff about him, diving into the tank and just getting into trouble, and Kirk having to get him out of it. And yeah, it's uplifting, and it's if you're going to do comedy in Star Trek, you got to do it like that. You got to do it.
We lost you again.
Lost his mic again. But I agree. Look, you're hitting all the points of what works about 4, so I'm not going to argue with any of that. My issue with 4 was similar to what Caster said earlier about time travel and some things like that. Before we go, though,
something's always thrown me off.
All right, go ahead. Oh, wait, let's see what Loki's showing off here real quick. Oh, he's got the Klingon Academy out. Okay.
So there you got Christopher Plummer.
You got to use the hairdryer's trick to get that price tag off of there.
Oh yeah. But
that's good stuff, though, man.
What's beautiful about this is, yes, it's already open, so I'm not like doing anything sacrilegious here. All of it is in plastic. All of it is brand new. It was never used. It was never. The box was opened.
The open box.
Really weird,
brilliant.
But it was everything, including game discs, manuals. That's the CD case. So there's like 6 CDs in there. Everything's in the plastic. Nothing's been tampered with or opened. Everything's still taped up. Just the box is open.
You gotta do a short. You have to do shorts on this, man. You got to tell people what you got to pull the one out and say this is what the original packaging looks like with the 6 discs still inside, because people don't know and they'll get duped by somebody who doesn't know. So
I got 2. I got this, and then I got this.
While he's doing that, I'll let Loki come back. But in the meantime,
buried alive.
Loki. I wish I'd taken a better picture of myself screaming, but that's back then.
And that's not opened. So this still. And I asked the guy. I said, how much for both? And he said, I'll do 30. So I got 2. This has never been opened. Everything's still inside. The tape's still there. Birth of the Federation. That's hard as shit to get. Some of these sell for $100 on eBay. So to find one for $15, it's a little scuffed up, but it's in really, really, the box is in really, really good condition. And shit, I got both of them.
Stuff in original packaging is going to get so increasingly hard to find. Oh, here you go. Brian's got his.
Thrift store, guys.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So this in the Star Trek chronology was something I had since the 90s. I got this in 1998. So you can tell like the pages are coming out, but I still managed to keep this. This goes up to Voyager season 3. I read this entire thing. This is before there was Memory Alpha, before you had the internet, and before everybody was an expert. I was already reading and memorizing stuff right here. So, but this was another thing that made me the nerd I am now. So, yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful book.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing. Because I love when we can just kind of it's been with you the whole time. Isn't that great? Kind of like it's like you've had it the whole time. Yeah, I have. My son was asking about some of the comic books that I don't want to sell.
See your encyclopedia and raise you a first edition. So that is the first edition encyclopedia before any of the movie stuff was added. So this is right after Deep Space Nine came out. All you've got is the Enterprise D. It hadn't been destroyed yet. The TMP movie, the original Enterprise, and Deep Space Nine. There was no Voyager. There was no Enterprise E yet. All you had was this. So this is a first edition of what you had, and this has been in my possession since I was a wee lad, a wee Loki lad.
Yeah, how much does your book have this price on there? This was a US $50. $50 US right here from 1998 right here. You see it? $50, 65 Canada, 35 pounds UK. Yeah, this was expensive back then.
$28. $28.
Nearly double the price in a
Yes.
couple years. That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think there was like
$28,
one other
38
version.
Canada.
I think there was a third version. I think that was it. Hey, Loki, do you still? I can't believe I got rid of mine. Do you still have this? Do you have any of the? You have the Star Trek magazines, right?
Yes.
Like
I
Star
have
Trek the magazine.
Yes. Star Trek the magazine. Yes.
Do you have? I didn't get. I never got all of them. Did you get all of them? Curious.
I think I'm missing a few. I only had the Deep Space Nine ones. When my aunt passed away, she left me all of her magazines. She left me a beautiful hand-painted portrait of Spock that's hanging in my living room right now, and some other things. I got some like figures and stuff, but she had all the magazines, and except for one or two that my other aunt, her sister, kept, and I got the rest of them. So I'm only missing a few.
Well, folks, it's been a great time talking Trek with some real diehard Trek fans here. So it's been great. Thank you guys so much for doing this and being here. NERDPOREAL, my friend, thanks for joining Talk Hard, hanging out. What you got? Something else? Wait.
No, that's the balloon. That's the balloon that was on.
The balloon is back. The balloon is back. Okay.
The balloon is back. It's dying.
They're never gone.
It just makes me want to send more balloons to his house. Is all it ever does. So, you know.
You can open up a package and just balloons.
Yeah, just more balloons. Just ding dong, more balloons. It says from Pops. All right, so folks, listen. Have a good week. Be blessed. Talk hard. Make sure you're subbed to everybody and all the different things. The links have been in the description and been in the chat. Make sure you connect everybody with all the different shows that are going on. It's been great. They've been here. There. Next week will be Karate Kid and some Cobra Kai talk, I'm sure. But Karate Kid, Adega Outlaw will be our special guest. It'll be a great time for everybody that can be here. Yeah, it'd be awesome. And then the week after that, we will be doing some Temple of Doom conversation with our special guest Joker Voice. So it's, we have a great group coming in here, trying to bring you the best experts we can. So no balloons are ever really gone. I know. They're never really gone.
I was thinking that too.
Listen, folks, you guys be blessed. Talk hard. And until next time, chill with Bob.
Ross, all I do is chill.